Oh my god, it's a fucking Munchlax. You were much harder to find than that Suicune in the Johto region. But finally, after hours of putting honey on trees and battling combies, I found you. So prepare yourself, because in this fight, I'm going to capture you and complete my Pokédex. Are you ready to be captured? F this. What is going on, guys? This is Dobbs here, bringing you another Pokemon video. And in this video, I'm going to go over the top 10 rarest things in Pokemon, ranging from the rarest wild Pokemon, to the rarest event item, to even the rarest Pokemon card. And to make this video more interesting, I'm going to rank these 10 things in order from rare to rarest. So basically rare inception. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the video, and without further ado, let's get started. Eating its way at number 10 for the rarest wild Pokemon, we have the Honey Tree Munchlax. Now back when Pokemon Diamond and Pearl were just released, a new feature was added that involved honey and trees. In the game, there were 21 honey trees scattered between Route 205 and 215, and these trees contained unique Pokemon. You would simply slide their honey onto the tree, wait a few hours, and then come back to find a wild Pokemon that was usually not obtainable anywhere else. The catch was, you were only allowed to carry one bucket of honey, which meant you could only slather one tree at a time. But what the game didn't tell you is that there are two types of trees, normal and Munchlax trees. The Munchlax trees produce rare Pokemon more often than normal trees, as well as having a chance of spawning a Munchlax. With only 3 to 4 Munchlax trees existing out of the 21 honey trees in the game, their locations were completely based on your trainer ID and secret ID. Now what makes the Honey Tree Munchlax the rarest wild Pokemon in existence is because you not only had to locate the Munchlax tree through trial and error, but you had to wait up to 24 real-time hours to even have a chance to come across this wild Munchlax, which also had a jaw-dropping 1% encounter rate. Even guessing the right tree without an online calculator is already a miracle, but getting a 1% encounter rate is straight up crazy, not to mention the amount of hours you have to wait to even see if you caught a Munchlax, which is why it holds the crown for the rarest wild Pokemon in existence. Catching you at number 9 for the rarest Pokeball, we have the Master Ball. Now out of all of the rarest things in Pokemon, this was definitely the hardest to determine. At first, I was going to choose the Dark Ball from the anime, which is a ball that makes the captured Pokemon turn evil, but after more research, I came to realize that there are a lot of unique Pokeballs out there that are exclusive to the anime. Like the green Pokeball from the first episode, the Crystal Ball that Molly uses in the second movie, or even the Relic Ball, which holds the spirit of the King of Pokelanus. So knowing that there are a ton of unique Pokeballs out there that could be considered the rarest, I made a rule that it has to be exclusive to the game and is usable. Which means the GS Ball from the Celebi event in Pokemon Crystal doesn't count because you don't actually throw the ball to capture the Pokemon. So after all of that, it came down to which Pokeball is seen the least in each game, which came down to the Master Ball in Pokemon Red, the Park and Dream Ball from Pokemon Black, the Cherish Ball from Event Pokemon, and finally the Beast Ball from Pokemon Sun and Moon. Considering that you're able to get a Cherish Ball every time you get an event Pokemon, it was immediately counted out, as long with the Park and Beast Ball, which are both obtainable pretty easily. So that left me with the Dream Ball, which spawns randomly in the Dream World, and the Master Ball in Pokemon Red, which is only obtainable once throughout the whole game. So knowing these circumstances, it is possible to get another Dream Ball because there's still a chance for it to randomly spawn. So in the end, I was left with the most predictable ball for the rarest Pokeball being the Master Ball. So I hope I didn't blow your mind too much, because after all, this is only number 9. Coming at number 8 for the rarest held item, we have the Lucky Egg. Now back in Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, the Safari Zone made a comeback after not appearing in Pokemon Gold and Silver. The Safari Zone is a special preserve for wild Pokemon that aren't available anywhere else in the region. Among these rare Pokemon, some of them have a 1% encounter rate in certain areas, the most notorious one being Chansey, which is without a doubt the most sought after Pokemon in the Safari Zone. The reason why Chansey is the most popular is because it has a chance of holding the rarest item in the game, the Lucky Egg. This egg gives a Pokemon 50% more XP points after a battle, which can be very handy when leveling up weak Pokemon. But while being such a useful item, it's not so easy to obtain. The odds of a Chansey holding a Lucky Egg is 5%, which means you have a 1 in 200 chance of coming across a Lucky Egg Chansey. But it is not guaranteed that you will catch the Chansey because this Pokemon has a 30% capture rate using the Safari Ball. So after the calculations, it is really a 7.5 out of 50,000 chance of coming across a Lucky Egg Chansey and capturing it, which is why the Lucky Egg is a very rare item. Growing at number 7 for the rarest berry, we have the Lychee Berry. Now back in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, this berry was one of the most sought after items in the game. This berry produced gold Pokeblocks which made preparing for Pokemon contests less stressful. But like you've probably guessed, while being a very useful item, this golden berry was really hard to obtain. Every day, considering you had a full party of Pokemon, you had a 1 in 10,000 chance of seeing the Mirage Island, which was a rare island that appeared on Route 130 under very unlikely circumstances. The math behind how this island would appear lied with 2 randomized bites that were generated by the game's coding. These 2 randomized bites would have to match the personality value of one of your Pokemon in your party, and the odds of that happening were less likely than encountering a shiny Pokemon. I mean, at least he had a 1 in 8,000 chance of coming across a shiny Pokemon every time he stepped in the wild. But with the Mirage Island on the other hand, you had 1 chance every 24 hours, which theoretically meant that you could go over a year of checking every day and still not come across the mysterious island. It makes you wonder if the gold Pokeblocks were really that worth it. Let me know down below in the comments on what you think. Flying in at number 6 for the rarest SOS Pokemon, we have the shiny Salamence. Now in Pokemon Sun and Moon, a new feature was added where a wild Pokemon can call for help. This will cause a battle to change from a single battle to a 2v1 battle with a random related Pokemon appearing. Now right in the first island of Melee, there is a possibility of coming across a secret Pokemon, a Salamence. But before you can even come across this highly evolved Pokemon, you must first find a Bagon which has a 1% encounter rate on Route 3. Once coming across this rare Pokemon, you have to weaken it until it calls for help. Now what's cool about SOS battles is that it has a chance of spawning rare Pokemon that only appear in certain locations. Some of the coolest ones being Gengar, Dragonite, Snorlax, or even a Salamence. Now what makes a Salamence so unique is that it only appears on Route 3, and like we all know, Route 3 consists of very weak Pokemon, which results in a very low level Salamence that often spawns as a level 10 Pokemon. But the chances of seeing this incredibly rare feat is very low because Salamence only has a 1% chance of spawning, and after doing the math, that gives you a 1 in 2,000 chance of coming across an SOS Salamence after encountering a Bagon. But to make it even more crazy, what if the Salamence turns out to be a shiny? Well, the odds of that happening is a 1 in 40 million chance of happening, which is downright crazy. Sparkling at number 5 for the rare shiny Pokemon, we have Manaphy. Now after completing Pokemon Ranger, the player could retrieve an online mission which revolves around rescuing a Manaphy egg. After completing the mission, the player could then transfer the mysterious egg to Pokemon Diamond or Pearl and then later hatch it into a Manaphy. Now the reason why this Manaphy could potentially be the rarest shiny Pokemon in existence is because of a few things. For one, you can only get 1 Manaphy egg per physical game, meaning even if you reset your game, you couldn't retrieve another egg because the mission was downloaded online. Also, the shininess of Manaphy was based on 3 things: the Manaphy's personality value, the trainer ID, and secret ID. Meaning, if your trainer ID and secret ID doesn't comply with Manaphy's personality value, it would never hatch as a shiny on that specific game file. So in order to bypass this, you would have to create a new save file on a different game so that you have a different trainer ID and secret ID. But it doesn't stop there. You would have to travel to the first Pokemon Center, trade the Manaphy egg over from the non-compatible game, save the game, and then hatch it to see if it turns out to be a shiny. If it's not, then you would have to repeat this process over and over again until you land a compatible save file that has matching IDs to the Manaphy personality value, which would take a very long time. And that is why the shiny Manaphy from Pokemon Ranger is the rarest shiny of all time. Unlocking at number 4 for the rarest event item, we have the GS Ball. Now back in Pokemon Crystal, this ball was obtained through a very particular way that most people didn't even know about. An online mobile service called the Pokemon Mobile System GB was one of the main methods of obtaining the GS Ball. This service consisted of leaking a compatible Japanese cell phone through an adapter and into a Game Boy in order to transfer content into the game. Now this online service was never implemented outside of Japan and was shut down pretty quickly, likely due to the fact that most of the younger players who played Pokemon didn't have access to such devices. Because you gotta keep in mind, this was the early 2000s, not even most adults had cell phones in that era. So coming across someone who had that specific cell phone, the adapter, and paying for the online service was very unlikely. Not to mention that this was the very first event item ever created in Pokemon, so the odds of people even knowing about it was very low, which is all the ingredients for a very rare item. And that is why the GS Ball is the rarest event item in Pokemon history. Splashing its way at number 3 for the rarest event Pokemon, we have the University Magikarp. Now back in the late 1990s, CoroCoro magazine hosted a competition for students in primary school. This competition included a series of questions where the students would answer for a chance to visit a special Pokemon conference in Japan. Those who were lucky enough to answer the questions correctly in the quickest time were invited to the conference and was placed in a 2-day tournament where each student battled each other out for a grand prize. And what was the grand prize, you may ask? Well, it was the rare University Magikarp. Now what makes this pathetic event Pokemon so rare is that it is the only known Magikarp in existence who knows Dragon Rage. Also, only 20 of them were handed out for the winners. So with only 20 of these bad boys existing in the entire history of Pokemon, this Splashing Fish is without a doubt the rarest event Pokemon of all time. But guess what? This is not considered the rarest thing in Pokemon, which is why it's number 3 on this list. Pulling its way at number 2 for the rarest Pokemon card, we have the pre-release Raichu card. Now I bet most of you were expecting the illustrated card for the spot, and to tell you the truth, I did too. And just in case you didn't know what the Pokemon Illustrated card is, it is a limited edition card that was only given out 39 times to the winners of multiple drawing contests hosted by CoroCoro magazine. And with only 39 of them existing, it goes for hundreds of thousands of dollars in today's market. So to put it simple, it is a very rare and expensive card. Now you're probably asking yourself, how in the heck does this simple Raichu card with the word pre-release on it even compare to that extraordinary card? Well, it all started with a simple error that occurred during the production of the Jungle Clefable cards. These pre-release Clefable cards were originally intended as a prize for participating in a popular Pokemon TCG tournament. But during the printing of the pre-release cards, a few base set Raichu cards were accidentally attached to the sheets that contained the Clefable cards. And with the card sheets holding 88 cards, it was estimated by the Wizards of the Coast that 8 to 10 copies of the misprinted Raichu card were accidentally stamped and released to the public. But it wasn't until 2006 that this holy grail of a Pokemon card was confirmed, because for many years the company denied the existence of this misprinted card. So skipping ahead almost 20 years later, this pre-release Raichu card still exists, and would probably go for hundreds of thousands of dollars if it ever popped up in the market, which is why I chose the pre-release Raichu card for number 2 on this list. Exploding at number 1 for the rarest ability, we have the Cacophony ability. Now this was an unused ability introduced in the Generation 3 games with a special effect of negating sound-based moves. So moves like Growl, Hyper Voice, Roar, or even Sing wouldn't work because the Pokemon with this ability would absorb it. Now it is thought that this ability was originally intended to belong to the Whismur family because of a certain Japanese Exploud card that was released in the expansion Great Encounters. But other than that one Pokemon card, this ability has never been used with the Pokemon in the games and is impossible to even acquire by any means. In terms of the Pokemon games, this is the rarest ability of all time. Which also brings up an interesting question. Was Game Freak planning on releasing a sound typing in the Generation 3 games? Who knows, but it's still cool to see that there's an ability out there that no Pokemon has ever had or will have. Unless they decide to bring it back in a future game if they release a sound type. But until then, this is the rarest ability and one of the rarest things in Pokemon of all time. So now you know. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to leave a like if you did, I appreciate it a ton. And also, if you're enjoying the channel, be sure to subscribe. And if you want to follow me on Twitter for fan interactions, video updates, and other cool stuff, follow me at Dobbs. And for the question of the day, what do you think is the rarest thing in Pokemon? Be sure to let me know down below in the comments. I can't wait to see what you guys have in mind. And I'll see y'all next time. See ya.